21 days until the midterms, and Democrats look to be selling, I don't know, something new like 1968 all over again. The more you see, the visuals, the tactics, the lack of any tangible policy prescriptions, the more you start to realize that they're embracing the same themes: victim culture, mobs versus jobs, stripping away law and order, hatred for the president, and so on and so on. Here with his thoughts on this and the segment we just talked about, the mass of humanity crushing our border, former Speaker of the House Newt Gingrich. He's also author of the New York Times bestseller, Trump's America. Mr. Speaker, it's so great to have you in studio. Now, we know, I know you want to talk about what we just talked about first, so I want to let you hit that, because I think this immigration issue is, if not the most important issue facing the country today in the eyes of the voters, economy and that, one of the top 2 or 3. And Donald Trump has always been ahead of everyone else on this issue, and now we have another scene of lawlessness coming up through Mexico, Honduras.
Well, first of all, I think Kevin McCarthy has offered the best bill and committed to bringing it up in December to really do whatever it takes to strengthen the border. But let me just make one key point about all this. This is insanity. No country, imagine it was your home, and people down the street said, you know, I like your home. I think I'm going to come and claim I need refuge. And 6,000 people show up to your home and say, I really hope you'll take care of me. It's crazy. And we ought to adopt a policy that says to the Mexicans, nobody's crossing the border. So if you don't want to stop them coming in from Honduras, they're going to be in Mexico. And I would do whatever it takes to control the border, period. End of story.
Well, Congress has to act. They have to change the asylum laws. They've been, I mean, I'm glad McCarthy's, come along to the gospel here.
It doesn't necessarily work if you actually control the border, because they don't enter U.S. space.
But they can walk into through a port of entry and claim asylum under current law, Newt. We have to change that whole process.
Well, I'm for changing that, but I'm also for saying that at the ports of entry, if necessary, if Mexico won't cooperate in stopping these people, it'll be amazingly difficult for anything to get through the ports of entry.
That'll get their attention pretty quick.
Yeah, in about 3 days.
Yeah. 3 days. Well, anyway, but you agree this is a big issue and a big opportunity for Republicans.
It's the fate of the United States. You open this country up, Gallup did a world survey, 165 million people would like to come to the U.S.
Yeah.
You couldn't possibly absorb that. Even left-wing cuckoos can't believe.
Americans don't want it. The Gallup poll on this says Americans don't want it. All right, Newt, 1968. One of our mutual friends, Lee Habib, and I were talking the other day, and one of the great guys in radio and one of my old friends, and he said, you see some of the parallels going on here? And it looks like they're going to move right to 1972 and nominate a far-left guy, of course, George McGovern, 1972. But before that, it was a buildup of lawlessness and a lot of bile and hatred.
I was actually with Lee in Des Moines last night.
Oh, fun.
Look, the hard left, which is now much of the left, is committed to believing that they have the right to bully you, to attack you, to trash you. Antifa has said publicly, which is a hard left group, that they intend to go and destroy offices if they feel like it. And you just had in Portland, people being harassed while the police stood there watching. So people need to understand, the left today, the Democrats today, stand for breaking up the whole process. Abraham Lincoln said it brilliantly at Cooper Union when he said, you will rule or you will ruin, talking to Southern slave owners. Well, the modern American left resembles those Southern slave owners in their commitment to rule or ruin. And that's why you see them scratching at the Supreme Court door.
My favorite image of the year.
Yeah, my goal is to ensure that for the next 40 years, the closest they get to a Supreme Court seat is scratching on the door.
Well, don't you think this is a moment for Republicans? They united behind the Kavanaugh confirmation.
Yes.
And look at what happened. The country was motivated, and they're excited. Like, this isn't fair. You know, we wish all the best to all these women, but it's not fair. Basic principle of fairness.
Look, I had a woman come to me last night who said she'd been a Democrat. She's 75 years old. She had switched parties after Kavanaugh, and every member of her family in 4 states had switched. And she said she was disgusted that this was no longer the party of John F. Kennedy.
Yeah, well, again, we have a situation where America in a midterm cycle, usually, you see the party in power lose seats. There have been a few occasions in which that did not happen. When was that?
That's right. Well, it didn't happen in 1934, didn't happen in 1998, didn't happen in 2002. I think this year we're going to gain seats in the Senate for sure. And I think the way that things are developing right now because of Kavanaugh and because people are disgusted with the Democratic Party and a little frightened by it, I think we may actually shock them in the House.
Project Veritas did on one of their undercover sting videos, and this involving, this involving Claire McCaskill and a staffer talking about whether she's really, open-minded on certain issues. Let's watch.
No, you were saying that you think she's more progressive than she lets on.
Yeah.
I think so too. I think she's a lot more open-minded to like alternative routes to things, but she can't be open about that.
Why not?
Because she would completely isolate her, the moderate Republicans.
Oh.
Yeah.
It's like we have to lie to get elected.
Essentially.
Well, they do have to lie to get elected. That's why Bredesen is lying in Tennessee. That's why McCaskill's lying. That's why Sinema is lying. That's why Heidkamp is lying. I mean, go down the list. That's why Donnelly is lying. Look, there's a simple test every American can apply to your candidate for Senate. Are you going to vote for Chuck Schumer? If you're going to vote for Chuck Schumer, you're a liberal, period. End of story. Including, by the way, Manchin. People in West Virginia ought to say to Manchin, if you honestly believe what you claim you believe, how come you're not voting for McConnell?
Well, and also Manchin, voted for the disastrous Obamacare, which was a complete disaster.
This whole notion of all these folks run back home, they say, I'm really not the person you thought I was in Washington, and I didn't mean to do it, and please elect me again. They just ought to say to them straight out, if you're going to vote for Schumer, you are a left-winger, you're putting left-wingers in power, and therefore I have to vote against you.
Yeah, and then we have these people like in the 7th District of Virginia, Dave Bratt, of course, unseated Eric Cantor, one of the big signs of this populist revolution coming. When that happened, I mean, that's a tight race. That could go either way. And I'm looking at the Virginia, Commonwealth of Virginia. You can't choose the Democrats here. I mean, that's going to take your state backward. You want to go forward. So Dave Bratt and so many people like him are supporting Trump. This is why the economy is growing. This is why we're seeing optimism growing.
Well, that's why the line you used last week, that the choice is jobs or mobs, is real. I mean, let's be clear. We have the lowest black unemployment in history. We have the lowest Latino unemployment in history. We have the largest number of unfilled jobs in history. The economy is growing. And the fact is, the Democrats promised to throw all of that away based on their socialist ideology.
And the left still thinks that devoting hours of coverage to Michael Avenatti and Stormy Daniels, and the president sent a tweet out in a phrase, which I don't think he should have done, but they think the voters are going to turn out because of a tweet. They still don't get it, Newt.
No, they don't get it, but that people ought to look at this stuff and say to yourself, do you want a party which has been delivering results for the last 2 years, or do you want a party dedicated to resistance? Because that's really what the choice is. And I think that the average American is going to look at what's happening, and I think they're going to conclude that, in fact, the Republicans have been doing a pretty darn good job, and the Democrats are, frankly, kind of scary.
Results versus resistance. Newt Gingrich, we love having you in studio. Thanks so much. And the Democrats were sure that Hillary Clinton could lead them to victory with a coalition of women that included white women. But when that didn't happen, they became the new enemy. We revealed the examples next. When 52% of them voted for Trump on Election Day 2016, the left found a new target to deride: white women. An odd voting bloc to alienate ahead of the midterm elections, don't you think? In the last couple of weeks, though, they've been called white privilege apologists. A New York Times opinion piece noted that they will defend their privilege to the death. Following the Kavanaugh vote, Susan Collins and others supporting the basic principle of due process were called, quote, rape apologists by the Women's March. And who can forget earlier this year when Hillary Clinton claimed white married women only voted for Trump because of their husbands.
We don't do well with married white women. And part of that is an identification with the Republican Party and a sort of ongoing pressure to vote the way that your husband, your boss, your son, whoever, believes you should.
Just 3 weeks to the midterms, and a new poll finds the Democrats up by 11 on the so-called generic congressional ballot.
But President Trump singing a different tune, tweeting moments ago, quote, "The crowds at my rallies are far bigger than they were ever before, including the 2016 election. Never an empty seat in these large venues. Many thousands of people watching screens inside. Enthusiasm and spirit is through the roof. Something big is happening. Watch." Here to weigh in, Fox News contributor, former Speaker of the House, and author of Trump's America, Newt Gingrich. Newt, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So
how are you guys doing?
We're doing okay. So the president just tweeted, "Something big is happening. Watch." What's he talking about?
Well, I don't know. I was just in Seattle and Dallas. I'm now in Des Moines. My sense is that the Kavanaugh fight galvanized conservatives and independents, reminded them how radical and how dishonest the Democrats are, and also reminded the country that politics in the end is a team sport. That if a candidate like Bredesen in Tennessee is going to vote for Schumer, he's functionally a liberal. If Sinema in Arizona is going to vote for Schumer, she's functionally a liberal. And it's stripped away. This is why Heidkamp, the senator in North Dakota, suddenly was 12 or 14 points behind, because people looked up and said, oh, I get it. There are two teams. There's this radical left team, and then there are people who want conservative judges. Well, North Dakota went 16 out of the last 17 elections for the Republican presidential candidate. Guess which kind of judge they want? So the Kavanaugh thing, I think, was very galvanizing. But I just want to make a point to everybody who's watching, because it is so absurd. The Washington Post poll, which let's discuss Hillary Clinton's second year as president, okay? Because that poll told us she was going to be president. The 538 people, election morning, said the odds are 71% that Hillary Clinton is going to be president. Charlie Cook said the Republicans are going to lose 5 to 7 seats in the Senate and lose control of the Senate. These people were all wrong. I mean, I don't know how to say it clearer than that. The very same people who were wrong are wrong. I don't know yet what's going to happen in the House. I think it's a hard-fought fight. In the Senate, I believe we will keep the Senate. We will gain seats in the Senate. Senator McConnell has done an amazing job with judges and an amazing job of recruiting and fundraising. And I think the Senate, basically, in terms of control, is over. Schumer will be the minority leader. McConnell will be the majority leader. You can argue over whether we're going to pick up 3 seats or 2 seats or 5 seats, but we're going to keep the Senate.
Well, and that would be big.
A huge,
because around Labor Day, the Senate was in jeopardy. But 5:30, that's what they said on Labor Day, but things have changed. But 5:38, and you kind of nixed their credibility, but they have had some impressive showings in the past. 5:38 says 80% chance Republicans hold the Senate, 80% chance they lose the House.
Yeah, I think that 80% is too high. I think there's a possibility the Democrats will win the House. But I can tell you, I'm talking to people in Washington State, I think we're going to win the 3 critical races there. I'm talking to people in Texas yesterday. It's very clear that the Beto O'Rourke mythology is disappearing. He's becoming, as Ted Cruz said the other day, Comrade Beto. And it's clear that Texas is once again going to be a very, very Republican state. Here, I think the governor had a wonderful debate the other day. She clearly is proving that she's the right person, and the polling here indicates that we're beginning to pull ahead in Iowa. So I think it'll be very hard fought. I think the Republicans will lose seats in the House. I'm not convinced that they will lose the House. And Kevin McCarthy, the majority leader's new proposal to actually fund the border, give us security from MS-13, give us security from fentanyl, and the commitment to vote on that in December, I think brings up the issue the Democrats are most afraid of. They are for open borders. They're for sanctuary cities. They're for abolishing ICE. Those are all tremendously unpopular issues. And if that's what this has fought over the last 3 weeks, I think they may well lose any effort, any opportunity to take control of the House.
That's why Democrats are telling other Democrats, don't mention that when you go out on the campaign trail. Yeah,
right.
Don't mention that you're for open borders. How much is it helping with the president? We see him out there at these rallies now almost every night, campaigning for a Republican in these tight races. How much does that help?
I think it helps enormously, both because President Trump actually has turned out to be the best messenger we have. I mean, when you listen to him demolish the Democrats' government-run health plan, or you listen to him talk about the Democrats' desire for open borders, or the difference in the economy. The Trump economy is the lowest African-American unemployment in history, lowest Latino unemployment in history. The Democrats want to raise taxes, put people back on food stamps. Nobody says that better than Trump, and he mobilizes the base. And that's important. And in an off-year election like this, in a midterm election, the bigger your turnout on your side, the better off you're going to be.
Yeah, 76%, according to an ABC poll, said registered voters said they are certain to show up to vote. And that might be an all-time high. So that would be great for the country if we get a good turnout on the midterms. That's one of the beneficiaries of having such passion on both sides. Newt, thanks so much.
Joining us now on the line is Ann Coulter, the best-selling authoress of many New York Times top-selling books, like Resistance is Futile, her latest book. Ann Coulter, thanks for being with us here on the Howie Carr Show.
Absolutely. What a great day to be alive. Elizabeth Warren is an Indian after all.
We were just reading, Steve was just reading the thing from the AP. They're making it sound like Trump is attacking her, even though she's conclusively proven that she's an Indian or a Peruvian, maybe. You know, I mean, this is ridiculous.
It's like the mainstream media doesn't know there's an internet. They can just say anything. 1/1024th Indian, i.e. less than the average American. Definitely not enough to be a Cleveland Indian in the bobblehead.
Or a cigar store Indian, for that matter.
Right, and the Cherokee Nation, of course, has disavowed her and said this is outrageous. How dare you claim to be a Cherokee? But all the headlines...
she switched tribes. She switched tribes, Ann. She's now a native.
Oh, to the Delaware.
No, she's a native. That's what she is now. But you're right. I mean, all the headlines say that, she's proven her case, you know?
Yeah.
And how about the Boston Globe?
Globe's correction was great, I think.
I know. I love that. But you know, the thing is, we were talking about this yesterday, and all the Moonbats posted the original story that said she was 132nd Indian, and I don't think the Globe cared that they had to run the correction. I mean, maybe they even ran it wrong on purpose just so everyone could post it. None of those people, none of that crowd saw the correction, or that none of them care about the correction.
Fair point. Though I think this is why most people get their news from Twitter now. Twitter and talk radio, the only reliable sources of information. I mean, the media has just decided in the era of Trump, we don't care, we're going to completely lose our credibility, but it is pedal to the metal to attack Trump and anything he does or says.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, another thing they're not reporting on, and we just did it with Grace, after the Cherokees attacked her, pretty severely last night around 5:30, 6 o'clock Eastern, she went on this Twitter rampage for over an hour, 26 tweets, and they accused Donald Trump or even you, Ann, of being deranged on Twitter. But I mean, this woman was totally out of control. You know,
Elizabeth Warren, what was she tweeting?
Oh, we just did the whole thing. I mean, we'll send you we'll send you the whole thing. I mean, it was just Donald Trump is a cowardly elitist, and he's running a con game. And Elizabeth Warren accusing someone else of running a con game.
Right.
I mean, it's just amazing. And again, she got it was crazy, but I don't think most people understand how crazy she was. And I think it was just that she was taking a lot of heat because she really thought that this was going to be like a slam dunk for her. And I don't think it is, really. I mean, again, with her low-info voters.
No, it's a slam dunk against her. I mean, you don't have to pretend to be even-handed here, Howie. It's ridiculous. I mean, I do think it's sort of surprising that she even asked for this to be done once it was pretty much clear that she had no Indian blood in her and used it in an affirmative action scam. I'm surprised we don't have more affirmative action scams like this. I mean, that was her big selling point for the diverse Harvard faculty. She was billed as an Indian. She contributed to the Pow Wow Chow cookbook. I really am surprised more people are not just checking off Black, Native American, that sort of thing on their college applications. It's mostly college applications. I don't think you see as much of this, maybe I'm wrong, in hiring for jobs. But I guess we'll have to go back to the old South blood tests on what percentage actually makes you someone deserving of preferred treatment in America. Because, of course, we're living in an America with white privilege. It's just that no one wants to be white because you won't be admitted and you won't get the job.
Right. Well, that's the whole thing that she's gone back to the one drop rule. She's the classic Democrat, right? One drop makes you apparently non-white as far as she's concerned. By the way, here's some of the things she advised people to tune out the lies. Okay? And if you're tired...
But the facts are the facts. I don't understand what lie... The fact is she's 1,024th Indian. The expert she chose to look into this for her, that's what he came up with. So what is the lie? It's a lie that 1,024th isn't full-blooded Indian? I don't understand what the argument is here.
Yeah.
Right? This was her hired expert. This is like, Christine Blasey Ford taking her own polygraph and then releasing the results. She hired this guy. So what's the lie?
Right. Well, she's talking about the lies by Donald Trump, and she's what else is she saying? He cheats. That's another thing. Everybody's cheating. I mean, she's the cheater here, right? She cheated. She cheated her way up the academic totem pole.
I think the hilarity of your longtime mascot being fully exposed to the world is causing you to lose your mind. She has been completely exposed, Howie.
No, I understand.
No weighing of the evidence here, and
I get it. And I said my the lead in my column today was Elizabeth Warren is still a fake Indian. I understand that. I'm just talking about how the mainstream media is trying to portray it. And by the way, here's one. This is the first tweet in this series. We all know why real Donald Trump makes creepy physical threats about me, right? I mean, I think we would know about these creepy physical threats if he'd actually made any.
I think we know too. That's one good thing. You can always fact check their crazed claims about Trump with the question, would we know about this if it were true?
Right. How about this one? Ann, since you missed Grace's Academy Award-winning presentation, this is the second tweet. Bottom line, my heritage played no role in my hiring ever. The Boston Globe reviewed all the evidence.
Well, if that's the case, the Chinese ought to include it in their lawsuit against Harvard. Certainly black students and absolutely Native Americans should, because Harvard isn't doing affirmative action right if it didn't play a role.
Yeah, that's another irony here, and again, it hasn't gotten much play, that she released this fabricated DNA test on the same day that the trial against her former employer began in federal court here in Boston. I mean, it's rather ironic, isn't it? I mean, she's running a scam, and Harvard has been running a scam for all these years. I mean, Harvard, a century ago, Harvard was discriminating against Jews for the same reason they're discriminating against Asians, because they were doing too well. And they didn't want to admit it. And so nothing has really changed here, has it?
But the weird thing about this is, I mean, normally the massive double standards you get on the left, it will be, no, it's okay for a governor of a state to have state employees bring a low-level employee to his hotel room, drop his pants, and say, kiss it. That's not sexual harassment at all. And then, when Brett Kavanaugh was a drunken freshman in college, he dropped his pants. And I have a recovered memory of it 30 years later. So one is taken, I'm going to scoff at it. Clinton saying kiss it, that's nothing but recovered memory of Kavanaugh dropping his pants as a drunken college freshman. No, that's a rape, that's rape. Usually there are 10 years separating these things, or at least a few years. The strange thing about affirmative action / Pocahontas is simultaneously these organizations like the New York Times with Jason Blair, Harvard with Elizabeth Warren, they brag and brag and brag about affirmative action. We have lots of affirmative action. Just apply and look at all the diversity, and we're going to pick people on the basis of diversity. We will discriminate against white people. Don't worry. And then when we find out that one person lied in order to take advantage of affirmative action for Native Americans, what are you talking about? I mean, it's simultaneous. It's from one sentence to the next, as opposed to two completely separate instances. Here, Harvard bragged about Elizabeth Warren being a Native American. Diversity, right. Diversity.
And how about she says, "Well, this never helped me get a job." However,
no,
again,
she was
an instructor. Yeah, she was an instructor at the University of Texas Law School, which isn't a bad law school from what I understand, but she was an instructor. And it's not an Ivy League
Harvard.
school. Right, or University of Pennsylvania. So she suddenly decides in the mid-'80s to list herself as a minority and appears in these minority guidebooks, which are basically used as hiring guides to, do away with your diversity problem if you're the dean of the law school. And all of a sudden, she's working at first at the University of Pennsylvania and then at Harvard University Law School. And she wants us to believe that it had... And because she's been cleared by the Boston Globe, which
right, it's just like Jason Blair. The Times bragged and bragged and bragged about their affirmative action program to bring in black reporters, and then, oops, it turns out Jason Blair is making everything up. And what are you talking about? Well, if they're not doing this, then they're not doing affirmative action. I don't think they act like they can give preferences on the basis of race, and no one else is allowed to notice that that's what they're doing as they're bragging about it.
And then she's got different stories. First, she said, I put down that I was Native American because I wanted to get invited to the lunches of the Native American groups. That was a good story.
For the 1,000th and 1,024th Indians.
And then
now she says recipes.
And now she says, I applied because my elderly matriarchs in my family were dying. So what does that have? So I decided to become an Indian. I decided to become a member of an ethnic group I didn't belong to. Ann, thanks for being with us. Ann Coulter, the best-selling author. Resistance is Futile is the title of her new book. I'm Howie Carr.
The effect of the Kavanaugh confirmation is taking a while to filter down to the electorate, to the House races, where we can measure them. It takes a little while because the House races don't poll every day, and when they poll at different times in different parts of the country. But the effect is now becoming noticeable. In the various rating services, Real Clear Politics, for example, rates each House race. Either strong Democrat, likely Democrat, lean Democrat, toss-up, or the same categories for Republicans. And since October 4th, 16 House races have changed their ratings. And of those 16, 12 have moved toward the Republican Party, away from the Democratic Party. And they include races that used to be toss-up, that now are lean Republican, races that now are lean, that used to be lean Republican, that are now likely Republican. So at the moment, the Real Clear Politics has only 13 races, or 14 actually, that are Republican seats that are lean or likely Democrat. But they have 4 Democratic seats that are lean or likely Republican. So it nets out to a loss of 10 seats. And if we lose less than 21, we keep control of the House. Now, there are, in addition, a list of about 29 seats that they rate as toss-ups. But one after another, those seats are moving into the Republican column. So it's too early to declare victory yet, but it's looking quite good. The Senate, of course, is a different story. There we are pretty well out of the woods on losing Senate seats we now control in Arizona.
That was a good story.
For the 1/1000th and 1/1024th
right.
Indians,
and then
because they have
now she
special
says
recipes.
And now she says, I applied because my elderly matriarchs in my family were dying. So what does that have? So I decided to become an Indian. I decided to become a member of an ethnic group I didn't belong to. Ann, thanks for being with us. Ann Coulter, the best-selling author. Resistance is Futile is the title of her new book. I'm Howie Carr.
The effect of the Kavanaugh confirmation is taking a while to filter down to the electorate, to the House races, where we can measure them. It takes a little while because the House races don't poll every day, and when they poll at different times in different parts of the country. But the effect is now becoming noticeable. In the various rating services, Real Clear Politics, for example, rates each House race. Either strong Democrat, likely Democrat, lean Democrat, toss-up, or the same categories for Republicans. And since October 4th, 16 House races have changed their ratings. And of those 16, 12 have moved toward the Republican Party, away from the Democratic Party. And they include races that used to be toss-up, that now are lean Republican, races that now are lean, that used to be lean Republican, that are now likely Republican. So at the moment, the Real Clear Politics has only 13 races, or 14 actually, that are Republican seats that are lean or likely Democrat. But they have 4 Democratic seats that are lean or likely Republican. So it nets out to a loss of 10 seats. And if we lose less than 21, we keep control of the House. Now, there are, in addition, a list of about 29 seats that they rate as toss-ups. But one after another, those seats are moving into the Republican column. So it's too early to declare victory yet, but it's looking quite good. The Senate, of course, is a different story. There we are pretty well out of the woods on losing Senate seats we now control in Arizona, Texas, and Tennessee. We still have some risk in Nevada, and we pretty well have the North Dakota seat that we can take away. And then we have 4 other seats that are really toss-ups, really on a knife's edge, in Florida, Indiana, Missouri, and Montana. So it's going to be interesting to watch that, but the trend lines are very, very good. On a number of lines to try to scare the hell out of voters to get them to vote to give the Democrats control of Congress. And today's video, and over the next 3 or 4, I'm going to be outlining the truth about those scare tactics. First, let's talk about pre-existing conditions. Democrats are saying that the Republicans want to eliminate mandatory coverage for pre-existing conditions. That is totally not true. There is currently coverage for all pre-existing conditions under Obamacare, and each of the replacement programs that Republicans have put forward cover pre-existing conditions and stop insurance companies from cutting coverage for that. It's an absolute charade. It's totally untrue. There is no chance that pre-existing conditions are going not to be covered under whatever emerges. In general, the issue of health care is one the Democrats are pushing, and they're talking about Medicare for all. Well, Medicare for all will become Medicaid for all, not the savings-based program that we're used to, where you put your money in and then you take your money out, but rather a welfare program, hand-to-mouth, where each year's appropriations pays for Medicaid, and if there's a shortfall, they just cut the services offered in the program. And with Medicaid